Hey everyone, Jeff McElwain here, and today I'm going to talk about a topic that affects a lot of musicians and people in general, and that is competition. Does having a competitive attitude help or hurt your playing, or both? So I'm going to dig into this topic in this video, talk about the pros and cons of each and how it can help your playing and really adversely affect your mental health. Let's start with the good side of competition, because a little friendly rivalry can go a long way. First thing is, competition can help you improve. When you see somebody really good, it can really inspire you. That little bug talking in your ear about, oh, that guy's better than you, can be really awesome. And I've experienced that so many times in my life that I've seen somebody really great play. I get a little annoyed, but at the same time, I'm grateful because I've seen somebody who's inspired me, and I go home and I want to practice, and that pushes me forward. Competition can also increase your work ethic, which has been really effective for me because I'll come home and I'm like, oh, I want to get this together. And sometimes I'll make a schedule, I'll write out what it is I want to work on just to make sure I have that goal pretty clearly stated in my mind and even on a piece of paper. Today I'm going to work on whatever it is you want to work on that you saw that person do that inspired you and got your competition going. That's also a fantastic thing that I've experienced from having a competitive nature, that it helped me organize my thoughts. Competition can also make you a lot more resilient as a player, which you definitely need when you're in the music business. Whether you're in the professional music business or not, if you're playing with other people, you're going to get your butt kicked at some point. Though it hurts when it happens, it is actually one of the best things that can happen to you if you can channel it properly. I love playing with people who are at my level and hopefully better than me, because I am pushed forward by them because I'm inspired by it. I get a little competitive, but that's the positive competition where I want to come back and have my stuff more solid, or listen to what they're doing and pick up on what's going on and become part of this thing. So that's another great angle of competition. Now, similar to what I just said, it can also enhance your creativity. You start working on things. You start being inspired by other players. Your voice starts to come out. You start hearing different things because you're working on getting better with some direction. You are practicing with intent, which is really an important concept. I'm practicing something on purpose. I'm not just noodling around. I'm working on something very specific. And as you do that, and as it gets better, all these other doors can start to open. Like, say guitar-wise, your vibrato maybe gets better, or you've opened up a bit more vocabulary, or to practicing this new idea, you played a fingering you never did before, or I've never played that chord or something. So this enhances your creativity, and ultimately that builds your own sound as a musician. And that, to me, is the ultimate end goal. So just a quick break here. I have a course on sale. It's called The Art of Melodic Soloing, and it actually really ties into a lot of what I'm discussing here. That how creativity is not something that just happens with a wave of some magic wand. If you want to build your own melodic solos, it really comes from understanding the chord changes, what notes are available to you, learning phrases and ideas, so when I'm going to solo somewhere or improvise on something, I have the tools in which to do that, and being confident in knowing those things like phrasing and hitting the chord changes and what are great passing notes and all those sorts of things make creativity flow much more smoothly. So check it out, The Art of Melodic Soloing. You can get it for a special price using the link above or below. Now back to the video. So now conversely, competition isn't always a good thing. It can really hurt your playing and adversely affect your mental state. Now this is somewhat of a cliche, and there's a few different variations on this phrase, but comparison kills confidence, or comparison kills joy. It's totally true if you let it get too far. I am very guilty of this. You know, I hear somebody play, especially in the world of the internet, somebody sits down and rips. You don't know how many takes they've done of that. You don't know how many times they've practiced that. You have in your mind that, oh man, he or she just sat down and played that thing and it was that amazing. I'm here to tell you that that's almost never the case. But I still fight with it. I still think this or that, or you see some video on YouTube of somebody playing live, and I find myself comparing myself to some of the best, because why would you compare yourself to less? But you know what I mean. There's comparing yourself to Eddie Van Halen or Alan Holdsworth, and these are the best of the best. And I think that that's important, but you also have to temper all of those things as well. And think about that if I'm so worried about how good they sound and how bad I'm sounding, it can really affect how I approach the instrument creatively, and take the joy away from playing the guitar. That attitude of like, well, I'm never going to be that good, so what's the point? Another thing that I'm very guilty of is anxiety and overthinking. I get obsessed with things being perfect. Now, I can say to you guys, oh, it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. There's a percentage of imperfection that I can handle. Now, I love when I see a guitar player, or any musician or artist or anybody just going for it and riding with it. And if you're in the moment, if the execution wasn't 100%, that's okay if the overall vibe is great. And I've talked about this in some of the other episodes where, sometimes I'll see a video of somebody playing and it's amazing. Or I'll go to a gig and I'll see somebody play and I'm thinking, this is great. What an amazing solo. And then I'll see that same video maybe on YouTube from that night, and it doesn't affect me in the same way. So being in the room with your musician friends and playing live music is a very different experience than, say, watching it on YouTube. People are always going to put their best foot forward on something like YouTube if they can do that, right? They're not going to put something that's got some mistakes in it. So when I'm doing a gig, and sometimes I just love that going for it, and I might miss some things, but then I will beat myself up afterwards. I'll watch the video and I'm like, oh man, I messed that up. I messed it up. And I cannot see the forest from the trees, right? I'm just so obsessed about that little mistake I made or this little thing. And everybody afterwards, the gig's like, oh man, that was great. And then all you can think is, yeah, but I missed this and I missed that and I missed that. Then when you start thinking about that stuff while you're playing, I made a mistake, then you start going down the drain, right? You start spiraling of self-doubt and you're in your head and then you're out of the music and then it usually starts to all kind of go south. So this is a very difficult thing to work through. And it's taken a lot of work for me to work through it, and I've still not even worked through it. How's that for a great sentence? So it's something that I think every musician I know deals with. Now, this is something I'm trying to actively work through. And it's very difficult if you're not gigging out regularly, playing regularly, to work through those things. So you can try to emulate those situations as much as you can at rehearsal, but try to be kind to yourself and relax and go with the vibe. As I mentioned in a previous video, which I have a link above, things that will help your gig not go south, is just know your material really, really well. Work on playing the songs that you play, and that will reduce a lot of this anxiety and obsession over perfection. Another negative side effect of competition, and it can really ruin your love of music. As I said, it takes away your joy. And that's something you need to be very careful about. If you're so obsessed about playing perfectly or obsessively comparing yourself to other people and I'm no good, blah, 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 that can make you not want to play the guitar. I have those feelings as well. Get these imposter syndromes, all these things like that. Now, this sounds like a little self-help because it kind of is. Like, you are the best you can be, and I'm the best me I can be. Jeff Beck was the best Jeff Beck who ever Jeff Beck to Jeff Beck, right? Van Halen's the best Van Halen ever. Though those guys I know were competitive in their own way, because that's human nature, they did concentrate on their own style, and that's my next point. Sometimes being overly competitive stops you from working on your own style and your own music because you're so obsessed with what somebody else is doing. So trying to outplay other people leads you down a kind of dead-end path in my mind. You don't end up working on what makes you unique, and what makes you and me unique is what makes all of our favorite players because they are unique. Another thing I think we forget is that the person that we were watching who's inspiring us has worked really hard to get where they are. If it's a great songwriter, they've worked on their songs. If it's a great guitar player, they practice a lot and work on things. If it's a great artist, they've worked really hard on it. So you need to work equally as hard to get to where you want to be. So there's this thing in our head sometimes that like, oh, they just were born with that ability. Nope, that does not happen. Some people may have a propensity for the instrument, but nobody just picks up the guitar and is great at it. Okay, so how do you use competition for good and not evil? One thing I like to think about is when I go see somebody great play and I'm a little annoyed and competitive, I also try to change that energy to I am grateful to them for showing me something new. And this really works for me. So I become competitive with myself. How much better can I get? As opposed to, can I get as good as them? What did I find from them that I really loved? Now, a friend of mine said this to me once, and I thought it was a really great thought. I was talking about Alan Halsworth, who's one of my favorites, and I was like, man, I wish I could play like Alan Halsworth. And he's like, well, I mean, you practice a lot. If you really wanted to at some point, you would have worked really hard getting that kind of thing together. But your favorite stuff isn't that. You don't listen to that kind of stuff all the time. So you didn't do that. If you really wanted to do that, you probably would have. And that's a great thought. So there's this competition of somebody's got a ton of technique. But say if you really just like playing blues guitar and you listen to blues all the time, which is a simpler form of music. I don't mean it insultingly. In other words, less technical than, say, jazz. If you don't enjoy jazz, you won't work on it. So you won't become a great jazz guitar player. If you love playing blues, you're going to become a great blues player because you're focusing in on that. So that's really something to think about. And that's really, really helpful to me when I think about these pianist guy things. I wish I could play like, Yngwie Malmsteen or something like that. That technique. Well, if I wanted to practice speed all that much, I probably would be closer, but I didn't want to. I didn't find it interesting enough to continue. Setting goals is really cool too. Like, so you would say, I want to just get better at my, 3-note per string major scales with legato. Then you just work on that. So you just make a note. Okay, today I'm doing it at 140 beats per minute, the metronome on 8th notes. I want to get those to 16th notes or whatever. Make notes so you can start to see your improvement, and that will build a ton of confidence. As a guitar instructor and guitar player, one thing is always work on your fundamentals, your triads, your major scales, your chords. Those will definitely make you better and improve your confidence. I still work on those fundamentals all the time, and I feel like that they are the building blocks, and the better I get at those building blocks, still to this day, I always see an improvement. And the final thing, it's music, not sports. And that's easy to say, but you do want to enjoy the road, right? I love playing guitar, and if I can turn some of that stuff off, it's just the progress and the road that you're on to becoming a musician that can be really, really fun. Now, I've heard people say, oh, music should always be fun. That's not true. It's just hard work. Hard work isn't always fun. So if you're understanding that music is hard work, if you want to be really good at something, anything, it's hard work. Is that work always fun? No, but the payoff is always worth it. All right, so what do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts on competition and your ways that you work around it or deal with it or how it affects you. Please enter that down below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. So if you found this video helpful, please hit the like and subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And don't forget, I have my course, The Art of Melodic Soloing, on sale using the link above or below for a special price. And I'm Jeff, and I will see you the next time.